This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
All right, would you look at that? We actually have a win to talk about today, Greg. I'm very excited about that. But first, this episode is brought to you by Fanduel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. I actually hit my Patriots same-game parlay on Sunday. I had Zach Wilson under 175.5 passing yards. Sneaky one here, Greg. Sneaky one. Mac Jones over 7.5 rushing yards, because I figured at least once or twice the Jets would kind of get the rush and he'd scramble. And I also had the under 35.5, I believe. So bing, bang, boom, as Tommy Heinsohn used to say.
Wow, I had something very similar. Let me find it real quick. So I had the under. I had Zach Wilson under 175.5. I had Mac Jones under 204.5, and I had the Patriots money line. So
the Mac just under the 205.5. So the Vikings screwed me on another parlay, but we won't get into that. All right, let's get into the headlines here for the Patriots before we break down what happened on Sunday against the Jets in Jersey. Daniel Ekuale, Greg, seems like he's going to be done for the season. Mike Reese had tweeted out earlier or posted, and I know you got some info here, but it sounds like it's a torn biceps. He is going to be done for the season if that's the case, you would imagine. Meanwhile, Davon Godchaux, who also left the game early against the Jets on Sunday, he might not be out that long. So what are you hearing about both guys?
Yeah, so Ekuale, it looks like he's done for the year. It looked like almost similar to the Marcus Jones injury, where Marcus Jones went on IR, and I think they fear that that's probably season ending, but they're going to see what happens after the 4 weeks. And Ekuale has the torn biceps. Not a huge loss for them. I mean, he's played a decent amount, but he's really just a role player for them. He's a situational inside pass rusher. I think they have some options there. Godchaux, it looked bad on film. He got sort of, watching the coach's film, he got sort of like twisted around and, his ankle got really torqued and, you feared at the least it was a high ankle sprain. But I'm told it's not believed to be a high ankle sprain at this time. He could miss this week. I do think he has a chance to play this week, but they don't believe it's going to be long-term. Now that's a bigger injury. In terms of depth on this team, with the decision to part ways with Carl Davis after he had a bad summer, we talked about it at the time. They are very thin at interior run stuffer. Basically, Lawrence Guy is the only guy left if Godchaux can't go. Carl Davis is a possibility. He's on the Seattle practice squad. I don't think the Patriots, from what I understand, are hot to sign him. Maybe they'll see how things go with Godchaux. They were just really disappointed in his summer. That I don't think he reported in the greatest shape and didn't play well on the practice field, and so that sort of explains, why they did that. But I think, in terms of Ekuale, I mean, what I would do, I would give Dietrich Wise, Ekuale's, and Sam Roberts some sort of combination of that. Give him Ekuale's sort of sub package interior rushes, and then I would put Keon White and I would give him Dietrich Wise's starting minutes. I don't know if they're going to do that, but that's what I would do.
I'd love to see more of Keon White. He seems, every time he's out there, he seems to make at least 2 or 3 impact plays. And at a certain point, you've got a guy who can really cause headaches for any offensive line. I'd love to see him get some more time. I'm not saying play him 60, 70% of the snaps, but some more snaps would be nice for Keon White in my eyes. So I don't know how much you want to talk about this because it's been talked about a lot over the last couple of days. But if we didn't talk about it, then we're ignoring it. Mac Jones, Sauce Gardner, everybody knows what happened. 3rd and short, you had the tush push that didn't work out. Belly-to-belly suplex on Mac after he tries to go back after the Jets because they were taking some liberties, I thought, above the neck with Mac, which has been overlooked. So, some to the face mask and neck. They were giving Mac the business. Mac tried to give him back the business. Mosley, Kurt Angle suplexes him. And then, of course, you have the whole Sauce Gardner, Mac Jones thing where Mac looks like he's asking for help to get up. Sauce kind of slaps his hand away. Mac stands up. There's been 75 videos, different views of this. Certainly to my eyes, Greg, it looks like Mac gave a little tap-tappy to the groin area. Just a little, just a, as Happy Gilmore, just a little tap-tappy. Just a little tap-tappy. just tap it into the cup. And now this is a whole thing where Tom Pelissero, I appreciate the work he does, but posting today that Mac's not going to get suspended. Can we all calm down with that? But just your thoughts about everything involving Mac and the extracurricular activity that we saw on Sunday from him and that we've seen before, Greg.
So in the grand scheme of things, am I all that bothered by it? No, there's a lot of crap that goes on the football field, especially in scrums. It's not for the faint of heart. Normally that's the big fellas inside, the big uglies. That it's a quarterback and that it's repeated. And I do think that Mac, gave him a little cup check in this. I don't love that it's the quarterback. And I don't like that it's the Patriots quarterback. A stray play here, going up cleats high. I get that. Hell, I used to do that in baseball, once in a while, especially against somebody I didn't like. But, there's two things that I think are pertinent to this. Number one, as a quarterback, you don't want to be getting this reputation because it's going to spread around the league. And now I'm worried about Mac taking some dirty shots.
Yep.
That's what I worry about most. Okay. And, let's contrast that to if you watch the Netflix quarterback series, I think it was episode 3, Patrick Mahomes talks about how he purposely goes out of his way to be nice to the pass rushers because he thinks that, there's a ton of footage saying like, hey, good rush dog, like good play, good hit, like stuff like that, where he even admitted that, maybe they let up next time on him and don't give him that extra shot. And I do think there's something to that. And I think Mac's taking the opposite approach and something bad could happen to him. I'm not saying as a direct result of this, but look, if you play the Jets twice a year, they're going to remember, along with other teams in the division, what have you. And the other sort of thing that I'm worried about with this, sorry, I was just looking for my point, but here's the other thing. And this is circumstantial, but I didn't like how Mac's teammates reacted to the play. Now, there were extenuating circumstances on this play because it was short yardage. Really, when you look at it, 4 of the offensive linemen were like face down on the ground when a lot of this stuff was going on. There was a pile up because it was 3rd and 1. The only offensive lineman that saw a lot of the extracurriculars was Antonio Mafi, and he's a rookie. He's not going to do anything. When Mosley did the wrestling move, you're the expert in this area. I'm not. On Mac Jones, like Devontae Parker initially takes a couple of hard steps towards Mosley and then doesn't do anything. I don't care what the circumstances are or what. I thought somebody needed to stick up for the quarterback there. And it should have been Parker saw it all. He was right there. He should have done something. Somebody should have done something. Now, do I think it's, am I going to take it to the sports talk level where, this is a sign that Mac's teammates don't like him or don't have his back? No, because like I said, this was a different type of play. The guys like David Andrews, if David Andrews knew what was going on, if he wasn't at the bottom of a pile, then I'm sure David Andrews would have done something. Trent Brown probably would have done something. Michael Wenu, I don't know. It's not really in his personality. But somebody would have done something. But, you combine all those factors, it's a little worrisome. But, do I think it's a big deal in the grand scheme of things? No.
There's no doubt he's got a little dirty in his game, Mac. There's no doubt. Whether you want to say dirty or cheap or smarminess or
a little Grayson Allen-ish.
There's something there. And, the old adage of if you go through a lot of roommates, it might not be the roommates that are the issue. It's probably you. And Mac is the common denominator in all of these kind of extracurricular things that happen with him. And he's had it with guys that don't necessarily have sketchy histories on their end. So I don't think there's any denying that Mac gets into it a little bit post whistle at times. And whether it's competitiveness, fieriness, or just brattiness, I heard Zolak and Bertrand use that word earlier today. Whatever it is, he's got some of that in him. And I agree with you. The biggest, I'm not really affected or impacted by that much, but I am concerned about the reputation he now has. Chris Long is out there posting on X about Mac being one of the top 5 dirtiest quarterbacks in the league. Darius Slay posted about it. Guys know word gets around, and whether or not every single incident is Mac's fault or he had intent every single time, that doesn't matter anymore because the book's almost out on him, right, across the league. Mm-hmm. So I am concerned that reputation will end up opening the door to somebody taking a shot at him later on at some point, and that's not good. You don't need your quarterback. Quarterback already has a bullseye on him. You don't need any more of a bullseye. Let's move on to one more headline here before getting into the Jets game. Speaking of Mac having a bullseye on him, he's been hit several times this year due to Cole Strange. And Cole Strange, to put it lightly, has struggled through his first couple of games here of the season. Greg, do you think it's time to bench Strange, or would that be a little bit too reactionary right now?
Now, let me say off the top, I don't know what his health is and how it's being affected. We obviously know that he dealt with a knee injury from like the second day of camp. It held him out like forever, and he just came back, played his first game against the Dolphins. This was his second game. So I don't know where he is health-wise. All I can do, and what I always do on this podcast and whenever I talk, is just tell you what the film says. And what the film says right now is that Cole Strange is a liability for this team. Is he a huge liability? No. He certainly struggles against the Jets. If he never had to play the Jets again in his career, he might be an okay player. The Jets are really good. They really are, and we're going to get into that more when we talk about the offense against the Jets. But he is a liability at this point. Apparently, he was stretching on the sideline during the game after he was pulled for Antonio Mafi, making it look like it was for injury. I think it was probably a combination with performance, but he's just not very good right now. Was Mafi a huge upgrade on Cole Strange in this game? Maybe. I mean, I only had him for one minus play, a run stuff. It was limited time. Now, Cole Strange, I had 2 knockdowns, 2.5 knockdowns, a hurry, 2 stuffs, and another poor pass block where he just whiffed, but luckily the ball came out early. So he struggled. A lot of it was against Quinnen Williams. A lot of people struggle against Quinnen Williams. But I do think for at least right now, I think Antonio Mafi, their 5th-round rookie, gives them a better chance at that position at left guard than their 1st-round pick from a couple of years ago. I mean, that's a scary proposition, but I think that's where they are right now. And here's what I see on film from Cole Strange. When you talk about interior, especially guards, interior offensive linemen, really the best guys have an extremely low center of gravity. They're built low to the ground. It gives you leverage. It keeps you sturdy. Not so much with centers, but definitely with guards. I mean, just think about, Shaq Mason was here, Michael Wenu. These are guys who were just anchored strong to the ground, and that gives you a chance to, turn people and move and impose your will. With Cole Strange, and I was hoping it was going to improve this year because he was a rookie coming from a small school. He was a little bit undersized, and it was definitely an issue last year. I was hoping we would see more improvement. I have not. Cole Strange's center of gravity seems to be around his belly button, and that's a big issue when you're going against bigger, stronger defensive interior guys. And, I think that Mafi is built low to the ground. He's a lot like a Wenu. certainly not the athlete that Cole Strange is, but at this point in time, I don't know how much that matters. I would rather have a guy who has a sturdier base and is better on those blocks. As far as Cole Strange long-term, am I giving up on him at guard? No. Maybe you give him another offseason to get stronger in the lower body, see what happens. Do I think he's a tackle? Could be. I don't think that they can transition him there during the season this year. I've always felt, as we talked about when he was drafted, watching his college film, I always saw a center because of his athletic ability, and he's light on his feet. And at center, you don't have to be quite as anchored to the ground because you don't get as many big one-on-one blocks. It's more like angle blocks inside. So bottom line is, do I think Cole Strange needs to be put on the bench for a fifth-round rookie? Yeah, I do.
Woof. Here's what I'll say about Cole Strange. Unless within the next year or so, he becomes a top flight guard, or he moves to tackle and ends up being a pretty damn good tackle, or gets moved to center and ends up being an elite center, they whiffed on this pick badly. I don't need to relive the conversation that Greg and I had over and over and over again at the time of the draft when Strange was picked in the first round. The biggest beef was you don't pick a guard in the first round unless you think that guy can be all world. Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, one of those dudes. When you look at him and you go, that guy is just ridiculously good.
Logan Mankins.
That's when you draft a dude in the first round. If you think he has elite talent at that position, not really good, not top tier. I'm talking the elite of the elite is when you pull the trigger in the first round on that position. And if this guy, and again, health, we don't know, but if this guy just can't cut it to the point where he's going to have to sit down for a fifth round guard, that tells you right there, doesn't it? If you're sitting him for a fifth round guard, it tells you could have gotten a guard as good as Cole Strange in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth round, especially when we've seen it in New England time and time again. So, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And he has to be better. And I understand that Quinnen Williams is one of the best in the game at what he does. But again, if you're using the pick you used on Cole Strange, he needs to be as good as Williams at his position. He can't be just bowled over and destroyed when he plays top interior defensive lineman. That's the very point why you draft the guy where you drafted him. So when you go against monsters like Quinnen Williams or Aaron Donald, that you have at least a chance on the left side of your interior. It's not good enough. It's bad.
Snap into action this NFL season with Fanduel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. I love those little suckers, those little bonus bets. It's like free money. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, Greg, let's move to the offense. I was reading your notes today, and you might have an unpopular take about this offense. What'd you think of that side of the ball on Sunday when you watched the film?
It's funny, like, when I have an unpopular opinion because I stay true to the film that's negative on the Patriots, everybody, calls me negative and all this stuff, but now I'm going to give this take and no one's going to have an issue with it because it's a positive take about the Patriots. My take on the Patriots offense after watching them against the Jets is that I think they were making progress. I thought this was a step forward for this offense. What are you talking about, Bedard? They only got 15 points. They couldn't do jack crap in the second half. They punted like 6 times. What are you talking about, you freaking idiot? Like, I understand, but I'm just telling. There's a couple things that make me think this. Number one is I don't think people understand how good the Jets defense is. It's really, really good. I mean, we talked about it coming in. Their defensive line, their linebackers are really good. The cornerbacks are really good. Whitehead, the safety, is really good. Like, it's tough sledding. Now, did the Cowboys shred it the week before? Yeah, but again, it's an abnormal opponent. Those things happen. When you don't know teams that well, and look, the Cowboys had a day. What do you want? Sometimes you're just on. The Jets are really, really good. So that's number one. So it's going to be tough sledding. Number two, I thought, especially in the second half, I thought the offensive line started to get some movement in the running game. They started moving the line of scrimmage, which is, when you're watching on the coach's film, you can see it as clear as day. You could see the uniforms pushing forward. And I saw that more and more, certainly more than at any point so far this season. And to do that against this Jets defensive line, even though, some of it was when Quentin Williams was getting a breather, but I do think that was there on film. And so that was good. You saw some of the running game get going with Ezekiel Elliott at times, even with Ramondre Stevenson. So that was good. I think that they are gaining more confidence in the offensive line. So we saw them go under center more. We saw play action come in. The 58-yarder to, I think, both Pharaoh Brown catches came from play action. So I think that's a key for this team. And now, look, are still things off, especially in the passing game and, some of the play calls and things like that. Yeah. Let's also, and I know they didn't penetrate like the Jets 29-yard line the whole game. Again, look at the opponent. We're going to do the same sort of thing when we talk about the defense. So I think we're looking at apples and apples here. But I do think that against lesser defenses, against lesser fronts, I think they're going to be able to impose their will more in the running game. I think it's going to open up play action. There's a lot of work to do as far as sorting out who's going to do what in the passing game and what Mac trusts and what their bread and butters are going to be. They're still figuring that out. It's a little slow for me, but to me, there was little doubt watching the film by the end of the game, even though the results weren't there. And remember, they probably should have had another 6 points if Joe Cardona could snap the ball. This was a step forward for me. I think I know they are making progress as an offense.
Yeah, we can't sit back and say, oh, well, they only scored 13 offensive points against the Jets when we all spent last week talking about how good this Jets defense was. Nobody anticipated them to put up, 20 plus points against this defense. I actually thought, Greg, they moved the ball much better in the first half than I ever thought they would be able to move the ball against that defense. Mm-hmm. They moved it pretty well. They had over 200 yards of offense in the first half. Given the conditions, given the defense, I thought that was good. And I thought that was a positive step, like you're saying. Really, just to boil it down, and we're going to get into some other issues in a minute, but offensive line to me was the biggest issue the first 2 weeks. And I don't think it's crazy that the offensive line played a little bit better. Your offense played a little bit better. For the first time all year, you had your top 4 linemen out there playing together. So I know people kind of, their eyes glaze over when Greg gets into the nitty gritty sometimes talking about offensive line play, but it's crucial. And it's really tough to run consistent offense when your quarterback's running for his life and your running backs can't find any room to run the damn ball. So offensive line played better, offense played better. Let's get to the passing offense, Greg. What's the biggest problem that you see?
The biggest issue that I see is that they just don't know, the roles that certain people should be in. I mean, let's take, for example, the two Juju Smith-Schuster throws on third down. This is Juju lining up sort of inside and these routes going outside the numbers. The combination of Mac Jones and Juju Smith-Schuster working outside the numbers is it's not good. We just know this. There's enough evidence from both guys. So it's not a high percentage play. Now, on both of those plays, I think that Mac was right. I thought that Mac threw good balls on both of those. It's just like Juju's got to figure out either Juju's got to figure out who he is at this point, which is basically a cached, outside the numbers receiver, or the Patriots need to not put him in that position. So should Juju be running those routes? No. Who should be running those routes? I don't know. I don't think they have a guy. I mean, what's interesting is talking to people around the team, and we talk about the whole Myers debate, and I think there's no doubt in my mind that if they brought in DeAndre Hopkins or somebody an upgrade on the outside and kept Jacoby Myers, do I think this team has a legit shot at being 3-0? Yeah, I do. But they made these choices, and from what I understand, Juju Smith-Schuster wasn't the Jacoby Myers replacement. And so far, the way they've used him, you see that. The Myers replacement was Mike Gesicki, which just, it furthers the point of, do the people in charge of Patriots personnel, specifically Bill Belichick, do they know what they're doing with offense? I mean, I think, you look at their defense and you could pick it. All right, this guy was picked to do this role and he knows what to do. And then, offense, it's apparent that nobody knows what anybody is good at. And it looks like they didn't have a plan coming into this season like this. We're signing this guy and this is what he's going to do. And this guy is going to do that. Like they just threw some average bodies and they said, well, we'll figure it out later. And to this point, they haven't figured it out. So, back to those throws, like Juju is going outside and he thinks he has a step on the cornerback, thinking like, I don't know, it's the Juju of 5 years ago that he can beat this guy up the sideline. He's not that guy anymore. And Mac knows that. And Mac says, all right, well, just like Jacoby would do, all right, work your leverage, like press the issue up the field and then break off real quick. Boom, back shoulder. We got a conversion. We're moving. That's the way Mac threw the ball. I thought they were correct. And so there's just a lot of that on film. Do I blame Mac for the throw to Demario Douglas? It looked like Mac sort of split it between Gesicki and Demario Douglas. But DeMario had a step, and Mac threw it off his back shoulder and threw it crappy. His footwork was bad. Like, that had a chance to be a touchdown. And I don't know, he just kind of half-assed it. He does that at times, which I don't like. But, the big thing, and the other thing with Juju and Mac, and talking to people around the team, because I asked them, I'm like, do these guys practice together? They don't look like they practice together at all. And the answer I got was, they practice together sometimes. I mean, I think that has to do with Juju's
what
health.
The hell?
I mean, how are you expected to have a precision passing game? The game is on the line. You have a quarterback and wide receiver who are working together, and they need to know each other like the back of their hand. And they don't. They look like strangers. Why? Because they don't practice that much together. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here.
Sounds messy. Look, he can't play 74% of the snaps, Juju. Can't play him that much. You can't play him 74% of the snaps and play Pop Douglas 17 snaps on the day. You can't. You can't. He is detrimental to this offensive operation right now. And until you figure out what routes he runs the best and limit him to those routes and take some of those snaps away and give those to other guys, it's just you're banging your head up against the wall. And I wonder, I said this on my pod yesterday, I do honestly question, again, Nick Cattle Show if you want to check it out, I do question, is the 74% of the snaps thing part of Bill Belichick trying to justify, hey, I brought the right guy in? Is the head coach being stubborn? Is the staff being stubborn because they paid the money to Juju? He was the quote unquote prized free agent in the offense in the offseason, and everybody sees that he's not quite with the program yet. And hopefully maybe in a few weeks he will be. Maybe this thing will turn around. I certainly hope so. But there's no evidence that he deserves 75% of the snaps unless Belichick is trying to prove to the world that he was right on this guy. And I hope that, at some point the coach says, okay, I can no longer believe that this is Juju of 5 or 6 years ago. I have to go off of what we're seeing right now. And I've got to get the guys on the field that can actually help us. And it's just, and Gesicki's another one. Yeah, everybody, Greg, you've said it, I believe. Evan Lazar has said it. Phil Perry, guys that look at the film have said, Gesicki's a pretty good route runner. and they should be using him more. And it's just, like you said, what are we doing? I don't know. Overall, how did you think Mac did?
Overall, I thought he did pretty well. Again, I think for the course of the game, I thought he played winning football. I thought his first half was way better than his second half, but I only had him for 2 minus plays in the game. I had him for 6+ plays in the game. There was a third down to Hunter Henry that was late in the second half. I didn't like the underthrow to Demario Douglas as we talked about. So, I think he did fine. It's just, there's no confidence in, exactly what they need to do and this is on Bill O'Brien. I mean, Bill O'Brien, it is just 3 games, but in short order, like, he needs to figure out exactly what everybody's good at, what everybody can't do. And then he's got to craft a game plan for that. They have to put their players in position to succeed more. I mean, Devontae Parker, could you tell he was even on the field in this game? I mean,
no.
It's just, Gesicki is underutilized. That they're putting Pharaoh Brown on the field because the other 2 tight ends can't block. I mean, it was a nice play, a coverage bust by the Jets, but 13 personnel, is that, really going to be, what they're going to be doing? It's just, they obviously don't have an identity. Like I said earlier, I think what we saw out of the offensive line will give them a step forward into figuring out their identity, which I do think is a power running team, off of play action. And, hopefully that gets better. I mean, on the running backs, no question that Zeke was way better than Ramondre Stevenson in this game. I think that Stevenson is struggling with the lack of volume. I don't think they're doing him any great benefit of, Stevenson starts, then basically they flip-flop drives, even the second drive of the game. I think they need to give Stevenson the first 2 drives of the game. He's obviously a volume rhythm type of guy at this point, and they need to get him on track. Now, I know Zeke was brought here with the goal of keeping Stevenson fresh for the end of games, to finish off games, to come back. We should also mention they still don't have a third down back. When we talk about this whole grand scheme of things with the passing offense, I mean, Ty Montgomery, all I see him doing is rushing on the edge and field goals. Like, is that what he's here for? Things to sort out at running back as well.
Yeah, I'm not panicked about Stevenson yet. I'd say there's a slight concern, but I think he'll be okay. I mentioned this after week 1. There's some tap dancing happening. I think he's waiting for his blocks. He's a Le'Veon Bell guy. I think there's some, he's trying to be patient, but at a certain point, patience turns into like indecisiveness. And there's just some hesitancy and tap dancing from him, which isn't helping. The yards after contact numbers are way down earlier this year compared to last year. Is that because, like you said, the bus isn't revving up enough and he's not getting enough touches early on? He was handled differently during camp. We all thought that was because they were trying to manage his touches and take care of his body. Was there something else? I don't know. He's not on the injury report, but we can manipulate that, as we know. So is there something bugging him slightly? He hasn't been the same guy. And it's kind of crazy. The offense took a step forward, but I truly believe people, if we look at it from 30,000 feet, I posted earlier today at Nick C Radio on Twitter, who does Matt go to on third down? And compare it to pretty much 75% of the AFC quarterbacks in those teams. Who do they have to go to? Go team by team. Mahomes has Kelsey. Burrow has Chase. On and on and on. Herbert has Keenan Allen. Tua has 2 guys that he can go to. This team right now on third down, it's like, okay, Hunter Henry, maybe. Juju, if he figures out what route he's running. And Kendrick Bourne, if he runs the right route. There's no third down back. That's like you said, Greg. I mean, Ramondre's played that role in the past, and he's done a good job of receiving, but he drops a football on Sunday, and now you're concerned about that. Your best offensive player before the season kicked off was supposed to be Ramondre Stevenson. So think about all the other issues we're seeing, and then your best offensive player has stumbled out of the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So to go along with the offensive line. All right, let's jump to the defense quickly. Can you take anything away from this game? I mean, we all know Zach Wilson sucks, but can you take away anything?
Not really. I mean, no. It's the Patriots played very aggressive on defense, and even Steve Belichick, he blitzed like 34% of the time, which is like absurd for the Patriots. I mean, I think against the Dolphins and the Eagles, I think they might have blitzed like 10% of the time, maybe. I compare it to me playing basketball against fourth graders. Like, I'm like Shaq out there, because I know they're not going to do anything. I can block every shot. I mean, when you know that you're not going to get burned by the quarterback. A little bit of credit to the Patriots, the throwing. I mean, they threw all sorts of different pressures at him early, bringing an extra guy, zone drops, all sorts of stuff, different coverages. I mean, it was good. But I mean, Zach Wilson, there were so many plays out there that he could have made in the game, smarter plays. And he's not even close to that, at this point. And so, tough to take anything away from the defense. I mean, they executed, did a really nice job against the running game. I don't know what's up with their running backs. I mean, certainly Dalvin Cook looks cashed at this point. Breece Hall didn't look great. They have a lot of offensive line, issues with injuries. They had to switch people around. Becton was bad at left tackle. They had to move Vera Tucker to right tackle. The rookie Tippmann had to play right guard. He blew a block that was pretty big in this game. So, the Patriots did what they should have done. They should have, beat up a weak offensive line and a weak-minded quarterback, and that's what they did. Now, I will say, even though it's tough to tell in this game because of the quarterback, but Christian Gonzalez looks really good. A better quarterback makes some plays against him in this game, like an Aaron Rodgers. But like we said last week, his coverage ability is real. I mean, it's sticky. It's as good as I've seen around here, certainly since Stephon Gilmore. I mean, I would put him, it's like Revis, Gilmore, and Christian Gonzalez. I mean, he makes J.C. Jackson and Malcolm Butler look like, the practice squad guys that they were, or undrafted guys that they were. I mean, he's so far in a way better than them as far as a man cover. And I think you could see a certain point in time where he can be on an island with guys. And It might even be at some point this season. They mix and match. So it's, you can't just take away what they did against, you can't say A.J. Brown and then Tyreek Hill and then Garrett Wilson. There are a lot of circumstances at play, including, help and changing coverages and stuff like that. But the bottom line is his coverage ability is excellent. And for 3 games into his career, it's absurd. And so that is for real.
To put it in perspective too, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson. It's not like he's doing this against the Scrabinis of the world. He's been thrown into the deep end, and he's already looking the part. So the level of opponent matters. And if you want to believe PFF grades, I know some people hate them. Some people are, but if you go by PFF, he is the number 1 graded first round rookie so far out of that class. Out of the first round, he is the number 1 graded guy. And he's also the 5th highest graded cornerback in the NFL right now. And so to look at, even if you don't love PFF, okay, he might not be 5th, but he's been really good. And Greg watches the film and Greg's telling you he's been really good. And again, the level of talent he's gone against, that's Patriots fans should be very excited about Christian Gonzalez. All right, before we get to a 3 up, 3 down, a couple things, check us out over at BSJ, $50 for the year. Greg and Mike Giardi doing some great work on the Patriots. They have all the film stuff breaking down as well. I thought Giardi had a good post. I think it was yesterday that, Sauce Gardner and Mac Jones, he had some film on this before the whole cup check incident. There was some stuff going on between those two guys earlier in the game. So Mike's looking at things. He's watching film. And of course, Greg's on it as well. And as always, I want to remind you that the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast is brought to you by Fanduel, the exclusive wagering part of the CLNS Media Network. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. All right, lightning version of this, Greg. 3 up for you from the game on Sunday.
Christian Barmore. I thought he was excellent. He had to step up with the injuries on the inside, and I thought he was really good in this game. I didn't have him for any minus plays. I had him for about 6 impactful plays in the game. Juwan Bentley, again, I think this was indicative of the Patriots being able to pin their ears back, but I thought he did a really nice game breaking through in the running game, and really being a key to stopping that, like we saw against the Eagles. And David Andrews, I thought, was excellent in this game, a clean sheet for him. Plenty of guys that you could put on, the up list, Pharaoh Brown with the 2 touchdowns. Judon had a great game. Wise had a really good game. Certainly Zeke Elliott you could put on the list. He had a really good game, but those are my top 3.
I had Zeke on my list. Trent Brown, I thought he came back and played really well.
Yep, pretty good.
Bryce Baringer, he got 4 of his punts inside the 20. He wasn't perfect, but when you get 4 inside the 20, pretty good. 3 down.
Joe Cardona. I mean, he's the second highest paid long snapper in the league. This was a rock fight. I mean, in his 2 high snaps on long field goals cost the Patriots 6 points. That's why they paid him. That's why he's here. He's got to do his job. If they would have lost that game on that Hail Mary, you would have looked at, Belichick's decision on 4th and 1 and the Joe Cardona 2 high snaps. It has to be a lot better than that. Cole Strange deserved to be benched in this game. Like we said, I don't know where he is health-wise, but on film, it's not good enough. He needs to be a lot better. I do think that he should be benched for Antonio Mafi, at least for this week, maybe take a step back. And my 3rd down was Juju. I have 3 minus routes for him. He had that stupid penalty in the game. You're just not really getting anything out of him.
Yeah, blindside block was idiotic. Juju's on the list. Cardona's on the list. I'll put Ramondre on there as well. The big drop early on in the game killed the drive. Not running as well as we documented earlier in the podcast. As far as the 4th down decision, we don't have time to get into that. But I will say I dive into that on the Nick Cattle Show, that podcast that I'm doing. And I have some numbers for people. My whole thing is, Greg, again, we don't need to get deep into this or into this at all right now, but Belichick's coaching scared. And he's
for
coached
a couple of years.
Yeah, he's coached scared. If you look at certain metrics from Aaron Schatz, formerly of Football Outsiders, he's coached this way since 2012. It's not a Brady thing. It's not a 4th and 2 thing against Indy. He's been this way for a while. And according to one of the metrics, again, from Schatz, who Greg, really, really, really likes his work, Belichick was the 2nd least aggressive head coach in the league last year. The least aggressive was Robert Saleh, who has Zach Wilson at quarterback a year ago. And when you coach not, to not lose, when you coach scared, that's how a game like Sunday that the Patriots dominated, that's why it's a field goal game with minutes to go. That's part of the reason. And that's bugging me. So if you want to check that out again, I dive really deep into that on the Nick Cattle Show. That'll do it for us today, though. Greg's going to run to Felgram Maz. I'm sure he looks forward to those 2 hours. And coming up later in the week, we'll get you ready for the Cowboys matchup on Sunday. Until then, he's Greg. I'm Nick. Be well.
With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help fuel you up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. First of all, I got an email saying, be on the lookout for it when it was delivered. It was ready to go. You could tell that it was fresh. These guys know what they're doing. Too busy to cook this fall, but want to make sure you're eating well. With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning too, while still getting flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's never frozen fresh meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy and get back to crushing your goals. I loved, this was my favorite one,
loaded bacon shredded chicken with sautéed spinach, green beans, and ranch sour cream.